Hello, welcome to this little video where I'll be discussing CMI Assignment 501. This is part 5 in the series, and we're going to be moving on to talk about Assessment Criteria 2.1, which is a little bit different in tone and nature to the previous assessment criteria for this assignment. So there we go. So assessment criteria 2.1 is evaluate the relationship between management and leadership. Little bit more theory in this one, and I have a couple of suggestions for that, which I'll talk you through, and I'll give you a perspective on this question. Just to get us pointed in the right direction, I think it's necessary just to think about what they're asking for with this word evaluate. So the CMI's language around this: consider the strengths and weaknesses, arguments for and against, and or similarities and differences. The writer should then judge the evidence from different perspectives and make a valid conclusion or reasoned judgment by current research or theories to support evaluation when applicable. Yeah, so we've got to sort of, this is very much on these, on one hand this and on the other hand that. So we need to have a balanced discussion, two different perspectives and a conclusion. So for this, I think the way that I would approach this is looking at, are leaders and managers different? But then on the other hand, are they really different or are they actually kind of the same? And then some sort of conclusion. What do you think? What, and how might that discussion apply to you and your role in the business? So that's the layout of, or the structure of this response, I think. So managers and leaders. Okay, here is just one point of view. So managers focused on the efficient running of the business, effective processes, performance, and the outcomes for today. So if you think about business as usual, making sure that the organization runs well and effectively today, that tends to be where managers sit. You can expand on this for sure. You might say that managers have a role in implementing plans and strategies, again, sort of making things happen. Anyway, there we go. So you can definitely go into a little bit more discussion on that. So yeah, what do you think? When you think about the role of a manager, what fundamentally do you see that being about? Leaders, on the other hand, are working towards the future. They are focused on vision, change, and perhaps even being a bit disrupting the status quo. So leaders aren't so much focused on today's organization, it's where are we going next? So kind of creating a compelling story, that sort of sense of direction, and then winning over people's hearts and minds and kind of engaging people on that journey. So there we go. Now, this is just one point of view. Feel free to disagree. And again, actually, it's quite good if you do, because again, that shows evaluation in our response. So what I'm laying out here, I suppose, is a view on where managers and leaders might be different. Managers are focused on the effective running of an organization today. Leaders are focusing on where we need to be in the future. And you can see there could be a little bit of tension between those two positions. So there we go. So that's a start point. Where that comes from is this reference. I really recommend you have a quick look at this article. It's an old one, but it makes lots of really interesting points, I think, about the relationship between managers and leaders. So Abraham Zalesnik, who sort of talks about the difference and the tension between the two. Business leaders have much more in common with artists than they do with managers, right? So, okay. I'm just going to have a look at, I'm just going to jump in. Bear with me. I'm just going to zoom in on this summary piece. It's the second paragraph, I think. The difference between managers and leaders, he wrote, lies in the conception they hold deep in their psyches of chaos and order. Managers embrace process, seek stability and control, and instinctively try to resolve problems quickly, sometimes before they fully understand the problem's significance. Okay, interesting point. Leaders, in contrast, tolerate chaos and a lack of structure and are willing to delay closure in order to understand the issues more fully. In this way, Zeleznik argued business leaders have much more in common with artists, scientists, and other creative thinkers than they do with managers. Organizations need both managers and leaders to succeed, but developing both requires a reduced focus on logic and strategic exercises in favor of an environment where creativity and imagination are permitted to flourish. Gosh, if we think about that a little bit, so what he's saying really is that managers are kind of in the world of kind of order, facts, problem solving, and data today. Leaders are a little bit more in the world of chaos. So this lack of structure, creativity, creative thinking. And I suppose actually, if you think about that focus on vision and the future, there's always something a bit creative about that. Whereas managers might be more focused on, again, data, evidence, and facts, perhaps less creative in their outlook. Now, of course, this is just one perspective. I think it's an interesting point to present in your assignment, this kind of this tension, but by all means, feel free to disagree. Anyway, I think it's a good reference to bring in, and there we go. Harvard Business Review is a really good source for all of this type of these sorts of theoretical insights. However, okay, so remember it's evaluation, so we need to present a counterpoint. So this is how I might critique the perspective that we've just looked at. Is it really possible to be a manager or a leader? Are they really different? So leaders will frequently have business as usual responsibilities. They may well need to manage budgets, review performance, and work within policy. It's highly likely that people who are leading in the organization will have some focus on the effective and efficient running of the business today. Whether they enjoy that quite as much, if they're more creative, is a different question. But it's highly likely that if they are senior in an organization, that they're going to have management responsibilities. Likewise, an effective manager will be focused on improvement and will need to engage and inspire their teams. So they're going to effective management might well be enhanced with a bit of creative thinking, rather than just being focused on today's performance, looking at how processes and systems can get more efficient and more effective. All of that stuff of lean and Kaizen, sort of continuous improvement, I would say, would be things that effective managers would engage with. So maybe Zalesnik has given managers a bit of a hard time in his perspective. Actually, an effective manager will also be, to some extent, a leader and have some of those leadership qualities. So are they really different, or actually is there a big gray area where the two different things overlap? And so that would be the counterpoint really that I would raise and say, yes, there are differences between, if you like, the focus of leaders and managers. I quite like that idea about managers being focused on the effective running of an organization today, leaders being more focused on engaging people towards change in the future. I like that perspective. But in practice, there's going to be a huge amount of overlap. And actually, someone might well have manager in their job title, but actually, if they're quite creative and are storytelling and kind of, when taking people with them, might absolutely also be a leader within the context of the organization and what they're trying to accomplish. So there we go. A counterpoint, another perspective. So there will always be some crossover. And in practice, they won't necessarily be different roles in the organization. So it's just again, that's our evaluation. It's our kind of little bit of critical thinking in there to say, but is Zeleznik really right about that? What you could do in this part, as a suggestion, actually is a little bit of a discussion about your role. Do you see yourself as more manager or more leader? So if you were imagine the spectrum, perhaps on the left-hand side, we have 100% management, so focus on today. On the right-hand side, 100% leadership, focus on vision. Where are you in your role in the organization? Where are you on that spectrum? And then a follow-up question to think about would be, are you where you'd like to be? Would you like to be somewhere a little bit different? Would you like to be a little bit more towards kind of management, data, evidence, facts, or would you like to be a little bit more towards leadership, change, vision, disruption, and engaging hearts and minds? Where would you like to be on that spectrum? So that's it. 2.1. The key thing with this, just in summary, really, is to present two sides of an argument, to present a little bit of a debate and come to a conclusion. How might they be different? How might they be the same? And what do you think in practice? What would be your summary conclusion of that two-sided discussion? And that will be that assessment criteria complete. Thank you very much.